has been an awakening. Have you felt it?
Welcome back. This is the Fan Awakens, episode 12. I'm back here in the booth with, of course, my glorious co-host from a galaxy near you. G, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm ready for this.
Ready for the new Fan Awakens. We have a lot of news coming in. Well, actually, yeah, we do have a lot more news than we've had in the recent weeks.
Yeah,
but before we get into that, I do want to welcome a special guest to the mic, and I believe this is our first guest we've had on the Fan Awakens, and that is none other than Doug Byrd. How you doing, Doug?
Hey, how's it going?
It's good to have you here. You're obviously one of my favorite people on the planet to talk Star Wars with. We've had so many great conversations, and I love we always have differentiating points, and it's just great to finally have you on the show. So thank you, Doug, for joining us today.
Great being here.
Yes, sir.
Great being here.
So now that Doug's here, we got G in here, and we do have an exciting lineup. We do have something that dropped today, something really exciting. I've got it queued up in my reading library, ready to get into it tonight. But I have not read it yet. I've just read the synopsis, and that is that E.K. Johnson has released her next novel in the Star Wars canon, and that would be Padme, Queen of Shadows. Or is it Queen's Shadow? It is Padme, Queen's Shadow. And so this book, basically, if you don't know about it, takes place between the events of episode 1 and episode 2. So she stepped down as queen. There's a new queen elected of Naboo, and she has sort of asked Padme to represent Naboo on the Galactic Senate. And this is a position that she's not necessarily sure she wants, but she doesn't want to disrespect the queen. She's not going to go against her wishes. So she takes the position, and it's basically her learning to traverse this treacherous government system that's in the Galactic Republic, and how to navigate it, and growing as a person. And I think it's very interesting. I love this because one of my complaints about episode 1 and episode 2 is the gap between, and I speak about it pretty openly. Padme just seems to, we have Anakin, he's a kid. He's a kid in episode 1, and then episode 2 comes and he's like this young man. Padme is the same girl.
Yeah.
So obviously there's the same age difference. Yeah. She's grown up just as much as Anakin, regardless of physical features and how they got a new actor and all that kind of stuff, and all of a sudden he's grown. I want to know, what was Padme's journey? Go ahead, Doug.
I actually agree there. Is that the little hop between the ages was very different when it came to Padme versus Anakin. And Anakin was like, damn, I'm a grown man. Yeah. And she just kind of was there.
And that's a good point, because I think that with Anakin being so much older between films, I think that you could assume a lot of things like, okay, now he's a Jedi Padawan. He's been, obviously going through training, and he's been going off on adventures with Obi-Wan. But Padme, what has she been doing? What has her time in the Galactic Senate been? And I think it's going to be nice. I always think that going into this timeline makes you appreciate the prequels more. Yeah. And so that's always a great thing. And E.K. Johnson is a talented author. She did Ahsoka, which is a very, very good book. And if you love Ahsoka as a character, you'll definitely love it. But my question for you guys is, do you hope that Padme this is a very political book? Because we saw a book by Claudia Gray in Bloodline that sort of went over Leia's journey in the new Galactic Senate and Galactic Republic after episode 6. And yes, it's a political book, and it's all about politics, but she also does go off on adventures, and they're not necessarily safe. She's always on the run or on the move and making big moves. I'd like to see Padme sort of go on similar adventures that we didn't get to hear about, because they do have a nice gap of time that they can play with that we don't know much about. Because most of the prequel stuff that we know about that's not in the films is because of Clone Wars, and that's between episode 2 and 3. Yeah. So let me see Padme's transition from this regal queen to a respected senator.
No, you hit all the points right that I would want to say. It's like, just wanting to, that I didn't really think about that until you brought up the point about the character jump between episode 1 and 2 between Anakin versus Padme. I didn't really, I sort of, because just thinking about Padme from episode 1, 2, and then 3, there's that, like, when you mentioned it, I totally forgot about the fact that, she stepped down as queen.
Oh, all of a sudden, no, now she's just a senator.
You just mentioned it, I was like, that makes a lot of sense. So reading this book would, just expanding more on her journey and her character would be really and like you said it again with the just making the experience of the prequels even better by giving us this bit of knowledge in this time gap to see, like, what sort of political journey she's been on, plus whatever adventures. And
episode 2 is my least favorite Star Wars film, and I think that anything that I can get to make me appreciate it more, I will always take. And I also think that it's great because not only can this make you appreciate the prequels more and Padme as a character more, who I think is a great character, just unfortunately, the love story kind of shafted her. But I think that there's a lot there. I hope that it really builds this sort of foreshadow to Leia, because Leia does take so much off of Padme as far as their character, strong-willed, strong-headed, smart, kind of, can take care of herself. Padme's known to be a great shot, and also Leia is, as we learn throughout the films. And I just want to feel like, wow, that's Leia's mom, regardless that she didn't get to spend any time with her, she's still Leia's mom.
Again, I can't, like, it's so weird how, like, I forget those connections that, because I don't hear that too often. That's Leia's mom. I don't hear that too often. So it's like to be reminded of that and to now have this book, it's just even better,
Yeah, it is. And so Doug, does a Padme story interest you? And if this story does not interest you, or maybe if it does, is there another timeline or a time frame that you would be more interested in? Do you think that it's more interesting to see Padme in her time on the Senate or her time as the queen, perhaps before episode 1, as she was such a young queen?
I would love to get her point of view as when she was the young queen at the time. As she was the Princess of Theed.
The Princess of Theed. Nice deep cut right there.
She, like, that's the main aspect is I would like, because she didn't necessarily become the queen until a little bit as she got a little older.
Yeah, and she still was very young, which is an interesting thing to see a young ruler like that.
Yeah, exactly. And I want to know what happened after episode 1. I want to know what happened between that and the large gap between her and Anakin, not even socializing.
Yeah.
Because they didn't actually start talking until they were both, like, before they were actually adults.
Yeah, like, that's how, like, episode 2 opens. Mm-hmm. It's like, I haven't seen her since I was a boy.
Like 10 years of, like almost 10 years apart.
Yeah.
He was like 10 years old in episode 1, and then 7 years later, he's like an aspiring knight and everything.
And isn't that weird how she's like the same age and they use the same actor for Padme, and then all of a sudden they just get this grown, like, I just think that as far as one thing that I think the prequels could have benefited from is if they would have just aged up Anakin, like, from the jump, had him as a teenager when they found him.
So I think there should have been 7 original movies instead of 6, in my opinion. One extra movie would have filled in so much information for us.
And luckily now that, like, I know a lot of people like to complain about Disney and all that, and of course there's certain gripes I have, but I do love that now that they've taken over, yes, there's some places in the world that are lacking now, like the video games, which we will get into in a bit, but I do love that now we are getting so much content to fill in the blanks, and thankfully we have a guy like Dave Filoni who is so passionate and really was molded by George Lucas himself to give us these timelines that we really haven't gotten much of, between episode 3 and 4 with Rebels, between episode 2 and 3 with the Clone Wars, something that has made me appreciate the prequel movies so much more.
Yeah.
And so that's exciting, and I'm glad I got my hands on this book. Hopefully by the time we're doing this podcast next week, I'll have read it all the way through. I could give a little synopsis on it, a little review, and my thoughts on that.
How large is the book?
The book is 317 pages, I think, the physical copy, but I bought it on I just have a hard time reading books physically. I love physical items. I love physical media. I love the look of a book on a shelf, but I just can't read them. So I buy them on my phone, and on the phone it's like 457 pages.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because it's all shrunk and everything.
Yeah.
But no, that's fine. To each their own. I love me a paperback though. I love me a paperback.
Yeah.
I think there should become a point where we need to stop using paperbacks because come on now.
Yeah, but like, I love paperbacks, hardcovers. I will tell you, Doug, you haven't read any. I know you were into the You're more of a Legends guy as far as like what you've read and what you've gotten into, and I love that because I didn't really get into the books and novelizations until the new canon. So we have different perspectives on some things, but if you are to get into any canon, I do highly, highly, highly recommend you should start with on April. Oh God, I think it's like April 16th. They're releasing a new book from my favorite Star Wars author of all time, Claudia Gray. It is Masters and Apprentice, and it's a book about Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon's relationship together.
What? They're releasing it on my birthday?
Oh, happy birthday, Doug. That is a gift. I will buy it for you, Doug. I will buy it for you. You have my word.
That is crazy. On my birthday.
You have my word. I will get that for you. At Celebration,
signed. I'm
hopefully going to get to meet the author, and I will try and get you a signed copy. You have my word on that one. I'm on record.
Nice.
But yeah, it's great. I read a synopsis. They released a little preview of it, right? And I was thinking, like, this is something that we don't get enough of. Because the movies, especially when you think about the original trilogy, yes, it's about the Jedi, but it's not all about the Jedi. You know, you have Luke doing his thing, and then you have Leia and Han, and it's really a movie about the Star Wars, which I love. But this book is all, they really broke it down. I got to read a little excerpt they released, and it was Qui-Gon in the Jedi Council, you know, because everybody questions why was Qui-Gon not on the council, you know? And basically, he was having doubts about being Obi-Wan's master. They butted heads all the time because Obi-Wan was more by the book, and Qui-Gon liked to stray, as we all know, and kind of do whatever his mind felt was best, not necessarily listen to the wishes of the council all the time. And he was looking for an out as Obi-Wan's master. And so they actually offered him a position on the council, but he turned it down. And the thing is, if he would have accepted it, he can't have an apprentice, so that would have given him an out that didn't like seem like he wanted to get rid of Obi-Wan, but he just felt this internal conflict that he knows that Obi-Wan would have known. That's why he took it, and that would have hurt him. And so he stayed the course. And I think it's going to be a really interesting mental breakdown of what it is to be a Jedi from different point of views. You're going to have this great relationship between Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, who Qui-Gon is one of the most interesting Star Wars characters ever created, and it's a shame that we didn't get more of him. Mm-hmm. And so I'm so glad. Once again, this will make you appreciate the prequels more. So definitely, would you be down to read that book, Doug?
Oh, hell yeah. I read it in a quick. I read it very fast.
I'll get you a copy. You got it. But yeah, that's exciting. But is there anything else you'd like to add, G? I think just overall, you're excited to read this one? Is this something that you would read, this Padme book?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I got to add it to the list, and I definitely will not get done with any of these books before Celebration, but definitely will add this one to the list because, yeah, I've always found that one thing just about her character in particular where I would want to know more about it. And like the fact that you just brought up these points and I just totally forgot about it makes me want to read it more. So it's like, I'm excited to see her.
Yeah, it's an exciting thing. And again, when I mentioned that other book, Master and Apprentice, that will be debuting at Star Wars Celebration, which, if you're wondering, is in 38 days. And I cannot wait. This is going to be this, I don't know, maybe going to my first Laker game at the Staples Center, but you know, that's putting things into perspective. It's hard. This may be the single most exciting thing I've ever done in my life, going to Celebration. But they have announced some new things that are coming. And this is something that I'm glad that you're on the show for this one, Doug, because you are kind of the resident video game expert here. And that is that Jedi Fallen Order, the new EA, well, it's kind of an EA game. You know, it's made by a satellite company that works beneath them that's famous for making Titanfall 2. they are bringing the game to Celebration. They're going to have a panel on Saturday, which is going to be a big day at the con. Obviously, Friday, Saturday are going to be the biggest as far as panels go, which tells me a few things. That tells me they're putting a lot of stock into this. That they expect it to be a hit.
Yeah.
And of course, they have to be putting a lot of money into it. We got this thing announced 2-3 years ago, and we really haven't gotten anything. We haven't gotten any footage. We haven't gotten a legitimate synopsis. We've gotten a little tidbits here and there, and they said a little bit at A3 to give us a tiny hint at what it is. The game being this story of a Jedi apprentice who escaped Order 66 and now is on the run in a world that doesn't accept him, and he's just trying to survive. But there's a lot of questions, we were talking off air a little bit about how a lot of people are excited for this now, almost in a frenzy state, because the company who's developing it made Apex Legends, which kind of blew up overnight. And people are like, well, that game's great, so this game's going to be great, right? And see, that's a positive way of thinking, but I'm not going to just assume that, because while people love Apex Legends, essentially it's Titanfall, but made into a battle royale without giant robots. And it's not like they did anything groundbreaking. I'm not trying to hate on the game here. I'm just saying, I don't think that game is any indication of what this game's going to be. G, what are your thoughts on the game? Are you excited? Do you hope? Because I don't know if they're just going to show us a trailer for it. They better show us gameplay.
Yeah.
But something that I hope also is that they give us a hands-on demo. They have their thing set up. EA's going to have their booth. Yeah. Let people come in and play the game, Play the alpha or play some, a setup level.
Yeah. Now, you've mentioned, it'll be surprising as to what they give, because like you said, 2-3 years, they have had a lot of time.
Yeah, and they've been teasing us for a long time.
Exactly. So there has to be something for us to at least play or show or, trailer, I don't know, something.
Yeah, they got to give us something here.
And do you know, did you hear, what were some of the things that they were throwing around? What kind of game is this?
It's supposed to be sort of it's a single-player story-driven game, which automatically excites me.
Yeah.
I don't know how free roam it's going to be, but it's definitely going to be story-centric. So we'll see about that. Doug, what do you think of the game? What are your hopes? Are you optimistic that it's going to be... Because right now the bar is pretty low as far as the EA-produced games. We have Battlefront 1 and Battlefront 2.
Well, yeah, look how they came out. They came out looking more like Call of Duty based than it wanting to actually be about Star Wars. Don't get me wrong. I think they did a fantastic job for the campaign. It looked beautiful.
Loved it.
But no one wants a Call of Duty style UI in their game.
Yeah, it's
People do not want that. That is why a lot of games lately have been, especially Apex or not Apex, especially Anthem. That's the reason a lot of people want to switch the view on how a person plays, because the first person shooter is just kind of burnt out,
Yeah.
You need to switch from that.
Yeah, it seems like a formula that a lot of companies keep going to because it's sort of easy, you make something multiplayer and bam, there you go, make it look flashy. Battlefront 2 is a game that I love the story. I love that it connects directly to the films. But once you get past that, now it's all style and no substance. And sometimes that's enough for me. Sometimes I turn it on, I play a couple games just because it makes me feel like I'm in the world, but it doesn't hold my attention. It's really repetitive. And there's just, I don't know, it looks fantastic. There's just not enough features. And here we are, over 2 years after the release of that game, and they're barely releasing Anakin as a playable character like anybody cares.
Well, yeah, exactly. No one cares late in the game, because they tried to wrap Star Wars all around Rey, but they didn't realize that the mistake was not doing that, because Rey is still a developing character, or at least everyone thought she was a developing character, not someone that just got injected with midi-chlorians.
Hey, look, Doug, this is where we're gonna have to disagree, my friend. Rey, I love Rey to death, but
no. I might be I'm probably coming on too strong, but I'm just saying, Rey's character is very nice, a very solid character. But they're kind of fast forwarding her to a point where they're not laying down any groundwork leading up to what she is. It's a lot of talking about her on the sidelines versus her doing the speaking.
Yeah, and I do think that that's an unfortunate casualty of them not having an overall arc planned, because I think that J.J. Abrams had an arc planned. You know, he had a lot. That's his job with the first movie, is to build up.
That was the problem with Rand. Is he just kind of like, forget your stuff, JJ. I'm gonna do my own.
Yeah,
that was the problem with The Last Jedi. It was.
And see, the thing that I actually do enjoy The Last Jedi quite a bit. There's obviously the Finn and Rose storyline I can't stand, but I don't blame Rian Johnson for that. I blame more of the executives, Kathleen Kennedy, for that stuff, because when you hand a guy like Rian Johnson a movie and you just tell him, yes, it's the second, like it's part of a trilogy, you know? J.J. Abrams took the first one and he did an incredible job. He planted all the seeds needed, you know? He put things in place to launch a very great trilogy. And the problem was they told Ryan, do whatever you want. And they didn't say, you know, make sure this connects to this connects to this connects to this, so that we can tie that up in the end. Instead, what we had was JJ making a splinter out, you know, as you do with the first installment of a story. And then instead of bringing it up a bit, we just splintered out to the side more, you know? We didn't necessarily we didn't get the answers that we were expecting, which I think is okay as long as JJ brings it all in episode 9, which I am confident he will do. And I think that JJ's episode 9 will make people appreciate episode 8 more, because I just think he's that talented of a storyteller. But yeah, I do agree that there should have been more, and that's one of my biggest complaints about episode 8, is that there's not enough Rey. I think that the film was so hell-bent on developing Kylo Ren that they use Rey as a tool to develop Kylo, and then they sort of sideline her at the third act.
That is literally what happened, because I had no problem with her acting.
Yeah, no, she's fantastic.
Actress.
Yeah,
she's very beautiful. She plays. She does what she's supposed to do.
Yeah,
but they don't give Daisy any spotlight.
And the thing is, they started out with great stuff. The first 2 acts, I love with her in it.
Yeah, and it was pretty cool. Although I'm still conflicted on the ending of The Force Awakens and the start of it. I'm still
with
conflicted
Luke?
on just holding the lightsaber for as long as she did.
See, I'm that's a funny thing, but I guess it builds dramatic tension.
It was exactly. It was more funny than anything.
That's a movie moment.
It all kind of funny.
See, for me,
that was
dude,
pretty funny.
I was like about to cry. I was like, "What's going on, Luke?" But
and then to have her walk up and him throw it behind her.
Yeah, I didn't like that either. I thought that there should have. He should have just let it fall. We've talked about this a million times. He should have just let the lightsaber fall. But here's my thing, Doug. I have a pitch for you, and me and G have talked about this on the show before. But here's my. We've talked about like what would we do differently in episode 8. Okay, so my thing is, you have a new trilogy here, right? And Rey is supposed to be the focal point of this trilogy. Yes, Kylo Ren is there to oppose her, but Rey is our hero. You know, she is our Luke Skywalker of this story. So when you have episode 8 happen, have you seen? I don't know if you've seen the deleted scenes in episode 8, but in episode 8, when Luke and Kylo are down on Crate fighting, you know, and Rey is driving the Millennium Falcon, and she sees the fight happening, and she says, "Let's go around back," and they just leave. Here's my thing: you cannot have. I thought it was a dire mistake to have that battle without Rey present. And this is what I think should have happened. I think you should have had Luke go out there. You should have had Kylo. Rey sees Luke and Kylo together. She should have landed that Falcon down there with them. She should have exited. And yes, Kylo could have had them all shoot out of the sky. But I think that once he's there with Luke, that is his fight. You know, he would tell them to stand down. That is his fight. And Rey needed to be there. They needed to have a dialogue between Rey, Kylo, and Luke. That you needed to do it. Even if you didn't have Rey ignite the saber and fight, you needed it to happen, because it's a big thing when you have your main protagonist and antagonist in a series not facing off in the third act because their fight really happened at the end of the second act or the beginning of the third. And then, maybe Luke should have told her, go ahead, save the rebellion. And say he could have had a kick-ass line that let her go and save the rest of the rebellion while still having, a piece of the pie in the third act. And they didn't do that, and I thought that was a big mistake.
Yeah, I didn't. I thought the fight, overall battle there was pretty good, and then it slowed down to a point where you expected Rey to instantly be the one doing the one-on-one confrontation with Kylo,
And I know they had their confrontation in the ship, but I wanted one more,
And even then, that wasn't enough. A show of force like that, I don't know. That show of force wasn't enough for me.
But I love that moment. Don't get me wrong, I love it. I love that moment.
It wasn't wrong. It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad, but
yeah, you just didn't feel satisfied.
I wasn't satisfied. Yeah, I just wasn't satisfied with what they had. I expected Kylo to be pissed. I mean, especially since he did all that. He did all of that. We all know this. He did it all with the hopes of that Rey would come jumping into his arms and such, but, or not necessarily like that, but regardless, he expected Rey to go be like, yes, I'll join you.
Yeah.
And we all know how Kylo is. He throws tantrums.
Yeah.
So I expected him to throw a Sith Lord level tantrum since he was the Lord now.
And see, that's something I almost need. I don't want to say I need anything because I know it's not like make or break for me, but I would almost something that I need to have in episode 9 is I need the Sith to return with Kylo Ren. I need him to get the yellow eyes of hate. I don't want him to be redeemed. I want him to just have this rage-filled dialogue with Rey and his eyes are yellow.
Exactly. I want him to actually be irredeemable. He is a new character.
Yep.
I don't want another Anakin.
Yep.
I am tired of, there's a point where I do want the Skywalkers to fall, but it won't happen unless it's with him.
And that's the sad thing for me because that's the only reason I feel like they will redeem him, and it's a sad truth for me. Unless somehow JJ makes Rey a Skywalker somehow, which we'll see what happens. I have some theories on that too.
I don't know about that.
Here's my only reason.
That would imply a lot.
Here's my only reason I'm afraid that they're going to save Kylo Ren. Not necessarily save him from death, but redeem him, is because Star Wars essentially is the Skywalker story thus far.
Star Wars is also more than Skywalker.
Yes, but as far as the films go, they said this is going to be the end of the Skywalker saga. I find it hard to believe that Disney will end the Skywalker saga on a tragedy, like the family being a tragedy. This whole journey of Luke's hero's journey and Anakin's demise leading to Luke and him having this beautiful moment of redemption, all leading to them having an asshole grandson who just brings the whole place down.
Wow.
I just know they will not do that unless they have a bright moment. Maybe Leia can, I don't know. I don't want to see Kylo redeemed at all, but I have a feeling it's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't want to see him either. I need to see a true Sith.
Yep, same.
Video, movie-wise, I want a true Sith.
That's why.
Sith.
And see, that
if they don't want to do it, then fuck all of them. Find a way to bring out Revan.
Hey, it's funny? When I drive to work, there's always this car I see. This guy has a black Challenger, and he has a custom license plate that says D Revan, and I get so happy every time I see it.
Nice.
But that will lead me into a new our next topic, which is actually, you're talking about Darth Revan. We have gotten more news that the Benioff and Weiss series of films, as they title it, is presumably now a trilogy. So now, assuming it's a trilogy, of course, everything here is taken with a grain of salt because they have not released any actual concrete news on what these films are going to be. Where everybody at this point, though, was assuming that it's going to be back in the day. And the cool thing is that it's all Legends now, pretty much, even though Darth Bane is canon because of that quick part he had at the last season of the Clone Wars, when Yoda confronted his dark spirit or whatever it was. Which if you don't know, Darth Bane actually formed the rule of two. Before Darth Bane did that, it was armies. Sith army versus Jedi army. And my question is, if they are indeed going into the Old Republic times, or even farther back to the formation of the Jedi and the formation of the Sith, where do you want them to cover?
That would be great.
Yeah, right?
I swear. Because I would love to see them go back to show how they were created, what planet of what the Jedi were back then.
And it's
they
great.
It wasn't just Jedi, it was the Jedi. And I would love to see that. I would love to see that split. What made the Sith and the Jedi.
Yeah, because we would, and see, they already have a connection built in, because where was Luke in Episode 8? Ahch-To, the first Jedi Temple. So we're going to have that connection. You're going to see the first Jedi Temple there. They're going to go back to that, and that's an automatic connection where you're like, yes, this is a new story with characters we've never seen because this is thousands of years in the past, but you still have a connection to get people intrigued. That's how you open a trailer for it. You show them on Ahch-To. I think
they opened it up.
Yeah.
When they showed, what's it called?
Jedi?
When Rey was, back when Rey was sitting right there, and right before she fell in, the insignia she's sitting on is actually the original Jedi when they were balanced. They were actually in balance before they split.
And I think the interesting thing about the formation of the Jedi is, yes, we've heard some things. We got confirmation from Luke in dialogue that it is indeed a religion, because yes, we have it in books and everything, but in the films, they never said the Jedi religion. And now that Luke said that, and so the interesting thing about the formation of the Jedi and the Sith is that it was originally just the Jedi. So when and why did someone splinter off from the Jedi to form the Sith? Because there had to have been an event that made somebody splinter off from the Jedi religion to form the Sith religion, And how did that come about? The darkness of it, I think, would be incredible.
There's some comics on it already explaining which or why it was one of the dark side users that splintered off.
Yeah, and that's cool, because what brought him to the dark side? Because when the Jedi religion is formed, I assume that they're all, sort of light side users until somebody's gonna.
Not.
What do you got for me?
It's actually not just the light side. The Jedi of, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but the Jedi of back then, they were in complete balance, which means there was half of them that focused on the light side, and then there was the other half that focused on the dark. There were dark Jedi and light Jedi.
Yeah.
There weren't Sith. The Sith only came to be from dark Jedi going to the Sith homeworld, or into their homeworld back before they were even Force sensitive, and they basically became one with their species, and then that made the Sith.
Yeah, it's just an interesting story that I think that they can play with a lot. And now I have a question for you, G. If it is between a story of the formation of the Jedi and the formation of the Sith, say in a trilogy, would you rather have that movie trilogy of the formation of Jedi and Sith, and I'm not talking about the Sith as we know it with the rule of two and all, which we could get at the end of the trilogy, Darth Bane splintering off. And then Darth Bane and Darth Revan comes in at the end as a tagline, and then you have a Revan storyline, and you have that going on. But would you rather have this story, Jedi and Sith, or would you rather have the Darth Revan storyline, but not necessarily so an Old Republic movie that's loosely based, let's say around air quotes, loosely based on the video games, right? So you're not following the storyline, but you're taking the skeleton of the story and adapting it, which is incredible. Or the formation of Jedi Sith. What are you taking, G?
So you're saying they're both trilogies?
Yes. And you do know the story of Darth Revan?
Sort of, but not as. I just played that.
Spoilers here for the game from 2001 if you haven't played it. Are you planning on playing it, G?
I played most of it, but I couldn't.
No,
finish
you
it 'cause-
don't. If you haven't gotten to the end, you don't know.
Yeah, I haven't gotten to
So,
the end.
I mean, how do you feel about spoilers?
Oh no, I'm completely.
Okay,
spoiled.
Doug, it's time to spoil the hell out of Knights of the Old Republic. So basically,
Oh, so wonderful.
you know, you play throughout the game as this character who
Yeah.
you find out at the end of the game is the Dark Lord, Darth Revan.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, because I remember you telling me something like that a long time ago.
And you find that out and you sort of get to decide your path. Are you going to align back with the dark side? Are you going to stick with the light? And that leaves the game open-ended for you. But it's a fantastic story of this person. Just as a story, think about this. A person, the film opens up to waking up on a ship. The ship is under fire. You don't know what's going on. The person doesn't really know who they are. And someone comes in and tells them, we got to go.
Yeah.
We got to, we're being attacked by the Sith. They go out there. You can have Bastila the Jedi fighting with Sith. It's like how it opens, just carnage, chaos, and you go out through the story and they tell stories about, the maleficent, Darth Revan of the Sith Empire. And, you have Darth Malak in there who's going to be the big bad, but you can change his name if you want. So people don't necessarily know it's the Revan storyline. You can change the settings. You can change how it opens. But if it's a trilogy, you realize at maybe the end of the second film or the end of the first, boom, you find out he is Darth Revan, and then that leads you into this whole conflict. Maybe he doesn't know, but the audience knows. And then he finds out at the end of the second film who he is in his past. And that leads him to a decision. Do I align with the light, which I have been with since I woke up, or do I go back to being Darth Revan? What do you think, Doug? Which movie series would you rather have? Which trilogy?
It's like when you say that, it's like, yeah, when you're describing that, I'm just thinking about like how I would want to see this.
Yeah.
Like as a trilogy, I could see it happening. That would be like now that you're telling me the story, I'm like, I have never seen anything like that before. At least I don't think so.
No.
Like I'm like, and because people would want it.
Such a small amount of people even know the Knights of the Old Republic storyline that this twist that you can throw in there can be rivaling that Luke, I am your father thing. It can be that kind of a twist.
Yeah.
Nobody will see it coming.
Yeah. So.
Well, if you want to go off of a Revan point of view, they should focus and make a trilogy upon that. Actually, they can probably go further than just a trilogy and make like 4 movies. Just make like 4 on it. Because it stretches a lot further than what people would like and what people would realize. For instance, the moment the action took place on top of the what was that ship's name?
In Knights of the Old Republic?
Yeah, the first ship that's on when you wake up on.
Oh my god.
That name.
Wait. I'm getting. What's the name of the ship that you go on throughout the game? Why am I forgetting that?
No, not the Evan. No, not the Evan Hawk.
Not the Evan Hawk. Yeah, not the Evan Hawk. That's although I'd love to see the Evan Hawk in the movies.
Oh, that would be beautiful. But it would be like a old school version of the Millennium Falcon, but with a better exterior. But so the ship that you wake up on, you'll have that whole fight scene, and it wouldn't have to be drugged out. I mean, it can't be something as simple as like, hey, run to this point, to this point, and we'll look and it's done. No,
that's a video game.
I want at least. Well, no, but even the video game is long-winded because of things you have to do in order to get to that place. I would be stoked, even if I did know exactly what was going to happen the next second. I wouldn't care because if it was well done, it would be worth watching. And I don't mean just like, hey, this is making copy this and do this. So I want significant actors and actresses that nobody knows about.
Wait a minute.
As new as Daisy.
I got something to throw in here, though. There is an actor who is one of the greatest actors of all time.
Here we go.
Who actually has had many meetings with Disney, has a wonderful relationship with the higher-ups at Star Wars, and who actually had the part offered for, you've seen Solo?
Say that again?
Have you seen the movie Solo yet?
Yes.
Okay, so Woody Harrelson in that movie?
Yeah, he plays his buddy.
Yeah, that role was offered to Christian Bale, and Bale turned it down eventually. Not because he didn't want to be in the movie, but because he wanted, if he's going to be in Star Wars, he wants a bigger role that spans multiple films, you know? And so my question now is, if we have this Old Republic movie, throw Christian Bale in there, who is Christian Bale? Because my immediate reaction would be either Darth Bane or Darth Malak. Or you can
Darth
even throw him in there as Casterfo.
You know me, when it comes to details,
Casterfo,
Darth Malak is actually strong, or not stronger, is actually larger in size than Revan.
Yeah. See, the good thing is that they can play with that because we don't need to be exact.
Being bald?
Yes, I can.
I don't know. I tried to pitch. Oh, actually, you know what? There was one movie he did. He was actually. Oh, no,
yeah, he's been bald before. Did I just hang up on Doug?
I think he might have hung up on Doug.
One sec, I'm going to call him back.
Comment. Wow, okay.
Yeah, that's the last time you're visiting this podcast, Doug.
You didn't get that reaction you wanted from him?
I said...
Friend, may the force...
Oh, how could you?
Hey, you said... you started criticizing my idea, and I said...
Goodbye, old friend.
He said you're talking bad on Christian Bale?
No, that's a complete accident that time.
Christian Bale is amazing. Christian Bale is an amazing actor. I guess I'm just looking at it from a too much of a visual rather than just his talent. Talent alone, he can play Malak, but Christian Bale as Malak per se, when I picture Malak so scratchy voice though, I can't picture Christian Bale.
Okay.
I could see him playing another Jedi or possibly even Revan.
Yeah, he could play Revan. And the cool thing is, you could have him play as Revan because, yes, he's an older actor now. I mean, he's not old, but he's older, you know? But it would make sense that he's already pretty much lived an entire life before this happened, you know?
Yeah.
My other thing would be maybe he plays Ransom. Oh, my God, what is his name? I keep forgetting the guy's name. Karth. You remember Karth? Your first
oh my god.
First acquaintance. Couldn't you see Christian Bale playing Karth?
That honestly, that right there, I could see happening. Him playing Karth.
Gee, you know who Karth is?
Karth Onassi.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, Onassi. If he played Karth, that's great because he gets this. You can make him be this sort of, because Karth is young, but you can age him up a little bit for this movie. You're adapting the story.
He doesn't have to change much.
No,
because he has the natural hair color the same as Karth. He grows the beard that Karth has later on in part 2. When you see him briefly.
And I think that someone playing Karth has to have range because Karth is someone who's always on edge, you know. He never trusts people until he really gets to know him. You know, it takes a lot for him to sort of let his edge off.
He's very emotionally driven.
He
really is, because it takes him a long time to trust you throughout the saga, and eventually, when he gets closer and closer to the edge, once you start emanating a kind of positivity, basically, when you're not trying to lean over to the dark side,
yeah.
He's like, hey, you know what? You've been such a good dude. I appreciate working.
Exactly.
You know? They need to add these important details, and those details. And see, here's what trips me out is that those details that they had in just the characters alone, are the same details that they need for all the current games. Because your characters would literally stop you in the middle of the Old Republic game. They would literally stop you and start talking to you, or say, "Hey, can I speak with you?"
You'd be like in the middle of some sewer between fights, like, "Hey, can we talk?" Like, sure. Then you end up in like 15 dialogue situations, which is great.
And you're sitting there talking for like 10 minutes.
Yeah,
they don't do that anymore.
No, they don't.
And when they do, they're like joking.
Yeah, it's not.
The people who worked on that did such a good job that there was actual substantial content or substantial meaning behind what each character did.
Because wasn't it was BioWare, right?
Yes. Old school BioWare.
Old school BioWare. Now I was always gung ho, like bring back BioWare to Star Wars.
But wait, what would you want between
BioWare was fantastic.
What would I want for what?
We brought BioWare back and let them focus only on the dialogue and dialogue alone. And then certain and the key scenes as well. Let them focus on key scenes and dialogue.
Yeah.
And then let whoever else there is, let them focus on graphics. I think if that were to happen, we would have a game worth having. Like, I would say leave EA out of it. EA,
yeah,
just leave them out of it. Just leave them out. I don't even want to think about EA. Just BioWare, and there's another company that would do a great job with them.
I mean, I could think of a couple not that it would ever happen, but I would love to see a Naughty Dog Star Wars game.
I knew it. The same thing.
Oh no, it has to be more than just them. You guys are forgot to remember back in the day, several companies used to cook up and make games, more than just like one or two.
Yeah, but nowadays we don't got that luxury.
Yeah, but
much.
they would heavily profit.
Yeah,
like games like
did.
Bloodborne.
Yeah,
Bloodborne
they didn't
came out several years ago, and people are begging for a sequel.
I mean, it's on my screen right now.
For it. Bro, it's insane. Like, that's the impact they need to have with these games. People
and
souls
that's always been my dream.
Back.
My dream Star Wars game for years has been a From Software built Souls type Star Wars game where boss fights.
I think you just said it.
Exactly. From Software.
That is just, you literally just said it. The people that made the Bloodborne and Souls games combined with BioWare could make an absolutely beautiful Star Wars game.
I actually think that's a genius idea, and here's why. Because, I love the Souls games, and I'm really enjoying Bloodborne so far, but they don't lay out the story for you. They just kind of like give you some weird dialogue. Look, let From Software build the game from the ground up, graphically, mechanics-wise, but let BioWare tell us a story that we don't have to read through online forums to understand.
Well, yeah, exactly. And you got to think about it. You're going to be a Jedi. You're going to be a soldier or Jedi focused anyway. So you're not going to bust your way through everything.
Yeah.
You can't. And that's where the creators of Bloodborne and Souls, I would say mainly even Bloodborne, because the way Bloodborne is layered is beautiful.
Of course it is.
Creators of Bloodborne,
same creators,
they have
same
it
team.
Layered. It's like, oh look, I need to get over to that area, but I can see it way over here.
I do
but
love
obviously, I can't jump off the edge because it's too high up, and I would kill myself.
That's something I haven't thought
and
about.
I don't know what's down there.
Because that's funny. It's like almost them just trying to say F you, you have to get over here, and you can literally just see it right there, but you're going to have to go through like 3 hours worth of content to get there.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think they should have a clear day like, hey, that's where I need to go. You can visually see what's right there. I don't think you should be able to no. Hey, along your way, you should be able to.
Yeah.
Not like right off the bat. Like, you shouldn't be able to look over the edge and be like, hey, look, there's the end game. You shouldn't be able to do that.
But one thing I like is that in
along the way, you should see.
In like Knights of the Old Republic, there's so many weapons that they showcase, and there's vibro blades, double vibro blades, all these different blasters.
Seriously.
And you can incorporate that
type of vibro blade
and make the lightsabers hard to get. You have to really work to get a lightsaber. And eventually you do get one, and then you can get double-sided, find different kyber crystals that are going to be like, think of the different stone shards, and different things like the blood shards and things in Bloodborne, but just swap that out for kyber crystals, to upgrade your blade.
Yes, exactly. The
Needs
only resources a Jedi needs is literally, well, I don't want to say the only resource, because you're going to need to be smarter.
Yeah.
But if you get hurt, and it should be an open area as well. So if you happen to walk across some poison shit because you weren't paying attention, you played yourself. That's your fault.
That's true. And
make it to where you can fix that, Or if you don't have the resources, say, hey, this type of poison will affect you in about 3 to 4 days. And it'll increase or it'll decrease by like 20 hours if you try to walk while you're poisoned. You know, something like that. I could take that. That's what I want in my game. And for Star Wars, I want as much detail as possible in Star Wars.
Same.
They could literally spend 5 years and just come out with a game.
You know, it's crazy.
Beautiful, but they don't.
Because
That's
I have these.
Me.
Well, they make beautiful games. They're just not dense enough. And I have these 2 books on my desk right now beside me that are just filled with tons of items from the Star Wars universe. I mean, everything you can imagine. Ships, buildings, plants. You can just pack this game full of that stuff, you know? And yeah, what do you think, G? What do you think? What if we took the Fallen Order storyline and made this from software? Because think about it. You're this Padawan who is on his own, and you got to traverse this world that is very unfriendly, and you know, come into Rancors, and Rancor can be a boss, an Inquisitor could be a boss.
Yeah, like literally, this just goes back to that conversation. It goes back to that conversation of you know, like how we're getting tired of the Call of Duties. Yeah. Like the first person shooters now, because like we're facing like some sort of burnout from that, and then, you know, they're starting to stray away to like third person stuff now. But I don't hear like, you know, I hear nothing but like really positive stuff, even though it's very like taxing and difficult, like these games, the Souls and Bloodborne games. Yeah. But it you know, it requires a lot of investment, and people are very in tune with the game and the combat and the gameplay. And, you know, I hear nothing but good things about these games. And so
I think it's because it's so rewarding.
Yeah, exactly. And so if we get a Star Wars, you know, type of game with this sort of gameplay and from this company, I think everyone would jump on it. Yeah, especially if they added all those added all the details. And like you said, they have it. They have the details.
Yeah, so many enemies and so many
exactly
different...
like the Rancors, like all the AT.
And
you know,
think about instead of different like bonfires like in different areas of some weird planet, you go to different planets. You know,
exactly.
You visit different outposts and
then it just goes back to what Doug was saying. Just think about the profit.
Yeah,
like, they would make so much money.
And the good thing with these games is they are incredibly replayable with the New Game Plus stuff. Yeah. You can play with your friends, which is fun, but it's not like you just, co-op mode. Like, it makes you earn it.
Exactly,
and it respects players. And yeah, I think that it'd be an incredible move. And that was a wonderful tangent we went on for about 30 minutes.
It was well worth it because
it was. That was a great conversation.
Bro, I'm just telling you, they just need to baby step it. Baby steps as like, take those small steps to gather information and see exactly what people like. That's like, don't just jump on the hype. The last time I seen them try to jump on the hype, what was that game? Mirror's Edge. The first one, it was
Wait, I got a better one for you.
Chest.
I got a better one.
And then they
No
came
Man's
out with
Sky.
a part 2, and it was No Man's Sky. Yeah. No, that was bad. Yeah. No. I understand what you're saying, but like, here's mine for Mirror's Edge. So for Mirror's Edge, there was no hype off the first one. Hardly anything at all, except the fact, hey, it's parkour on a TV screen.
It's like a little gimmick.
Unique, right?
Yeah.
The graphics are crap.
Yep.
The story was straight to the point.
Yeah, they didn't really, it wasn't very ambitious.
But then part 2, like, and it was really out there. It was really out there. You know, it was floating around. Part 2 could have solidified it for part 3, but then they were feeding off of the hype. Instead of going, okay, well, they like it. What was your concept for it beforehand? No, it makes me feel like they just took something and they just threw it together for part 2. Part 2 had like no cutscenes. It had hardly anything.
And
it was extremely rushed.
And that's an unfortunate. I think that just separates the bad games from the great ones or the good ones. You know, it's just all effort, and I think that story mostly has to come first. Gameplay obviously is huge, but you've seen games that have been successful with limited gameplay. You think of something like Detroit Become Human, where that's basically like a really long movie that you get to choose your options. You know, the gameplay is nice and all, but
see, that's actually really good because it had graphics, and it had choice. It had player choice,
which gives you replayability.
Exactly. That's what the Knights of the Old Republic had.
Yes,
it had
definitely.
that potential for replayability. It didn't have graphics because during that time the graphics were
during that time the graphics were fine.
For that time the graphics were considered
they're pretty good. They're really good. Yeah.
And it had a lot of movement. It was one of the earliest games that had a ton of new movement to match the emotion. And then the weapon customizations were very unique back then too, compared to a lot of games.
And just a lot of besides weapon customization, they just had a lot of options. You know, there was a vast amount of weapons and armor, and their characters all had different personalities, and they had a lot to choose
and there
from.
Was different skill tree. You could still be a Jedi, but still focused on
light side, dark side,
being able to shoot blasters. And you could be gray so that you can balance all those. So you can balance and use just about everything.
And I love that they make you earn your first lightsaber. You know, you don't just get it. I love that it makes you build up to that.
You don't even get it until like the second place.
Yeah, unless you steal it from Basilo when you save her.
Unless you literally go over to you leave Paris.
Yeah.
And you either get, I think you can get the lightsaber at the very end.
Yeah,
or you can get it when you get it at the very end of the place right before you leave. But I think there's something that could actually make it where you don't get it. That's weird.
It's all, and see that there's so many choices in that game, and we just need another one of those, man. Who makes
you can.
Who makes Dragon Age?
No, EA, I want to say.
Ew, never mind. Let's get a Bethesda one then.
I've been seeing them backpedal with those Dragon Ages over the years.
Yeah.
The
graphics look pretty, but then the character graphics look like shit.
All right, G just changed my mind, actually. He what did you say?
CD Projekt Red?
CD Projekt Red, who is obviously famed for the Witcher franchise, which The Witcher 3 may be my favorite game of all time. I absolutely love it. I love it from top to bottom.
I hear a good thing about The Witcher. Believe it or not, I've never even played it.
Dude, I never played it until the third, and I've still only played the third, which I'm so mad at myself at. And still, it's so the story allows you to come in as a new player, although obviously you're gonna appreciate certain things more if you play the entire franchise. And some things I had to look up as far as character relationships and whatnot. But that game is so dense, Doug. I cannot recommend that game more highly. I think you would love it, man. It is so dense.
Hey, would you believe that I haven't played it, but a buddy of mine showed me it back when I was 18. Mind you, I'm like going to be 28 now. So 10 years ago, my buddy showed me The Witcher.
The first
Witcher.
Damn.
Oh, wow.
And would you believe that the graphics were damn near what they are now?
I know. That's why I can't believe I never even really heard of The Witcher until the third. It
was absolutely beautiful.
And that's what we need for Star Wars, is what I'm saying.
Because it's a PC original.
Yeah. Because when you think of The Witcher, CD Projekt Red, they built that game. I mean, the score, I listen to the soundtrack all the time. I have it downloaded on my phone, and sometimes it just pops up. And one thing that Star Wars has always been known for is the music and the world and the diverse characters. No two characters are the same, and that's something that
the
dialogue in the Witcher franchise, you go meet probably thousands of characters, and it never feels like two are the same.
Yeah.
And that's what would be perfect.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think CD Projekt Red, or the people who made Horizon Zero Dawn, they could probably make a great Star Wars game.
The French company, I think.
I don't know. I don't want to say yes because I don't know. But you played a little Horizon also.
Yeah.
Here's my thing. I am down for almost anybody besides EA. And unfortunately, I think we're going to be stuck with
Activision.
Yeah, Activision can leave the chat too. The problem is they had a meeting with the board of with the investors. Bob Iger's meeting with the investors. Bob Iger, obviously the Disney CEO, and he just showed how out of touch he is, because he basically said that we've never been that good at video games, and we like the money we're making from EA, so we're just gonna keep it how it is. He does not care, basically.
He doesn't see the amount of money he could be making.
No, he doesn't. He just sees that they're making a profit, and he doesn't care about video games, and that's pretty much it.
Dude, they're crazy.
They
are absolutely crazy to even have. He is nuts for having that point of view.
Because
having that
even
mentality about it.
Yeah, he is nuts, because here's one thing that's wild. Since Disney acquired Star Wars in 2013, I believe it was, video games have made them the most money, I believe. And they've only released 2 console games, because they're so much more profitable than film. Or maybe it's film then games, but either way. Imagine if they were still releasing, a game a year under if they didn't make that exclusive deal with EA, they could be, shopping it out to different companies. We could be getting all kinds of different rich Star Wars games, and life would be good.
Honestly, not if you've actually said it out loud. If they did sever contract with EA, because EA actually is hurting them.
Yeah,
I don't care anybody says.
Because
if
Battlefield 2 came out,
sever contract with EA, man.
Because I just don't think they should make an exclusive contract at all. Let one company make a game. If it's good, then let them do another one. If it's not,
it'll be just like the PS3 years.
Yeah, those are great.
I mean, you got like all kinds of different versions, and oh my gosh, they could do so much. They could literally, like we were saying, they could have Sony and who was the other company we were talking about?
CD Projekt Red, From Software.
Sony and BioWare. They could literally link them up together to make the game that we want. Because I don't care anybody. No one. I mean, I'm sure everyone would agree with this. Sony makes beautiful single player games. They just do.
Yeah.
I mean, single player games is what kept Sony around all this time.
That's why. Yeah.
That's why they have their own console. That's why the exclusives are the shit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't think Sony has bad exclusives necessarily that I've ever seen.
That's the reason I switched to PlayStation. I didn't want an Xbox One in the first place, but it was just becoming a paperweight without having any exclusives, And PlayStation, that's their thing, That's where they excel. Xbox may have some better multiplayer games, or at least they used to when Halo and Gears were at their peak, but no.
Okay, I've seen the new Gears. Those graphics suck compared to the old Gears graphics.
Do. They did not catch up to the times.
I don't know how did they backpedal, but the Gears of War on 360 was gorgeous.
Gears 1, 2, and 3, they were all progressive as far as like how they looked. They all looked better and better, and the playstyle was different. It's very intense, in your face. And the graphics were kind of ahead of the times as far as these big multiplayer games went. And then Gears 4 came, and don't get me wrong, the graphics looked fine, but they weren't anything to, stare at. They weren't anything to marvel at.
No, they weren't anything at all. Because I just watched my cousin play it last night.
Yeah.
And the graphics were, in comparison, they were really nice and smooth, granted.
Mm-hmm.
But in comparison to the old one, they were crap.
Yeah, when you look at the other games that we have these days,
they were 2 steps back.
Because back in the day, Gears was pretty much on par with anything else, especially multiplayer games. And when you look at the Gears 4, we're getting on a tangent here, but it's okay. That's what we do sometimes. It isn't living up. But I do want to switch. We're running a bit long here, so I want to get to a story that we've talked about before, but I just love having this this interplay between all of us three. And that is that, so recently Disney sort of announced that they are working on early development or shooting, even maybe. I don't think shooting. Development of a new Star Wars show that we have not heard of before, and a new Star Wars film are going to begin later this year. So a lot of people are thinking,
they're going to start filming it.
I don't think they're going to start filming, actually. I mean, they may, but I know production, so they may start, writing it or producing it or getting it casted, things like that.
Yeah, production. I don't know.
But I mean, filming maybe. Who knows? They keep. But there's a new spark that goes on because the Obi-Wan movie was supposed to happen. They definitely have a script. It's definitely written. They were going to announce it, and then Solo happened, and that kind of derailed the whole thing because Kathleen Kennedy came out and said that they were going to announce the next Solo film soon, very soon, and it never happened. And that's because of Solo. And so a lot of people now are wondering, okay, they're announcing another series. Could this be the Obi-Wan film adapted into an 8-part series maybe? You think it's easy to get Ewan McGregor back. He's open to doing television as he did the Fargo series. So my question to you is, first off, let me give a quick pitch of my Obi-Wan movie, okay?
Oh, yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Because my Obi-Wan movie... Okay, we all know that Vader fan film. You saw it, right, Doug? The Vader fan film.
Yeah. No, okay. Yeah, definitely.
So we know that part 2 is going to be Vader fighting Mace Windu, right?
Yeah.
So here's my pitch for Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan is watching over Luke Skywalker, young Luke on Tatooine, doing his job, connecting with Qui-Gon, working... I think that we will see his first connection with Qui-Gon, really. His first real connection through the Force Ghost. And we see, this is a wonderful thing. You get Liam Neeson to come back and have a conversation with Obi-Wan as a Force Ghost. But here's the story. Essentially, Mace Windu survived his fall in Episode 3, right? He's been recovering in these years, and he's been training to get back to his strength, working on getting a new lightsaber, doing all that kind of stuff. And in the process, he's hell-bent on, finding Anakin, and getting his revenge. And he finds out... Okay, so obviously it'd be natural. Mace Windu's not dumb. He knows that Anakin is Darth Vader. But I believe that the story will be, as Obi-Wan watches over Luke, he will travel to Alderaan. He'll talk to Bail Organa, who's watching over Leia, and at some point in the film, we'll realize that Mace Windu has found out that Leia and Luke, or even just Luke, say it stays. I do think Obi-Wan should go to Alderaan so we can see Alderaan on film for once. But basically, Mace Windu will realize that Darth Vader had kids. He'll find out who they are, where they are. He'll find Luke, and he's basically going to try and use Luke to get to Vader, right? Now,
yeah, okay.
And so it's going to be tragic. And Obi-Wan is tasked with guarding Luke. And so basically, I don't know the whole story here yet. Well, I kind of do, but I don't have time to explain it. Basically, this film is Obi-Wan protecting Luke from the Sand People and different things. Maybe he's 8 or 9 or 5, who knows. But it's going to climax with Obi-Wan fighting Mace Windu to protect Luke Skywalker, which I think will be beautiful and tragic. And like, Obi-Wan doesn't want to fight Mace, but Mace is hellbent, he's sort of fallen down the path of that fine line that he always walked between light and dark side, being able to use the dark side to strengthen his light side. And now he's sort of fallen to the dark, and not that he's become a Sith, but he just wants justice for this. He's enraged and wants to end Darth Vader, which is a good thing, but Obi-Wan will not let him do it.
Yeah, I couldn't blame him.
But
yeah, exactly. I couldn't blame him at all.
Obi-Wan may agree that Darth Vader needs to come, needs to be defeated, but not at the expense of Luke,
Yeah. True. Those are two good points. You can't hear me, right?
So I think that'd be an interesting story, though, because it would be very provocative. It would put a lot of our characters in a very difficult situation because, Mace and Obi-Wan are both Jedi. Obi-Wan respected Mace Windu as a Jedi, and maybe he ultimately knows that what Mace is doing is maybe morally right until he goes after Luke.
Yeah.
And so that's my pitch. So my question for you guys, and I'll start with G here real quick. Would you rather see, assuming that's the story, and he will of course have an altercation with Darth Vader as well. Okay, that's gonna happen. Maybe they even all three fight each other, which would be nuts. But that's probably not gonna happen. We're gonna have a fight between Obi-Wan and and Mace and Obi-Wan and Darth Vader. Assuming that's the story, would you rather see this as a film, 2.5-hour movie, directed by Jon Favreau, or an 8-part miniseries?
Miniseries.
Yeah, I was about to say, because it would allow for more development and more richness in that sort of sense.
Yeah.
Whereas it would, because, I mean, what you've laid down, you made some really good points, and I'd want it to be carefully laid out and, bring about the richness and the details as much as possible. And I know in like how much could they push this? Like 2.5 hours, maybe 3 hours, probably.
Probably 2.5.
Yeah, 2.5. But it's like everything you're describing, to see this, to build it up as if it's like a miniseries.
And here's my next, I just came up with this right now. 2 seasons, end it. 2 seasons. First season, you build up Mace coming back, Mace fighting. You get Samuel L. Jackson to come back.
I see.
You get Ewan
He
McGregor
does have
to come
to build
back.
it up.
And you build that up so the climactic finale is Obi-Wan fighting Mace Windu.
Yeah.
You put $5 million into it, You make it look great. We know that Samuel L. Jackson has been yearning to come back.
Exactly. That was another thing that I was going to mention.
Joel Edgerton as Uncle Owen, he said on record he will come back.
Yeah.
You can get all these guys who were not, okay, I'm not going to say not big names, but now they're bigger names. It's huge. People would go nuts over this series. You have that. And so then you have Obi-Wan tragically have to kill Mace Windu, which would that would explain like how maybe he went crazy, because people are like, why is he so old and like this hermit and stuff?
Yeah.
That's tough, man. That is heavy stuff.
Exactly.
And then, or
Bob.
you can switch season 1 and 2 if you want, but the season 2 would be him. Okay, you know what? I am switching. Season 1 will be him leading up to Vader. They're going to have a second confrontation. No, I'm going to stick with Mace.
Yeah.
So that's season 1, him and Mace. And then season 2 will be Obi-Wan going between, Tatooine and Alderaan, trying to make sure, him and Bale sort of making sure, how did Mace find this out? What happened? Where did we go wrong? I thought it was only us 3 that knew about this, Yoda, Bale, and Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
What happened? How did that happen? Can we prevent it?
Yeah.
And then, that leads up to him having a final confrontation with Vader before episode 4. And that is my pitch.
Bob, if you're listening to this.
Yeah, pay me. I'll write it all. I got nothing to do. What do you guys think, though? Do you think that that's something that you would be interested in?
2 seasons.
2 seasons, yes.
Yeah, again, like the more time you give this, the more richness and more development you can give these characters.
Yeah.
All of them would want to come back. And it's like, it's what you said, like they were not big names back then, maybe as big as they are now.
Yeah.
Like Joel.
I mean, obviously Samuel Jackson's always been,
of course,
Sam Jackson.
Yeah.
But like,
Honestly, I think Samuel Jackson is actually at a great age right now as well.
He is.
And
because and he looks great. He looks great for his age because he's actually much older than what he actually is.
Yeah, he looks fantastic.
So they should use that as an opportunity of, like you were saying, Eli, where he has to build himself back up.
Yeah.
Because he lost, first off, he lost half of one, he lost his hand.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember, was it both hands or he lost one hand?
He lost one.
It was
both.
Yeah, so he lost one hand.
It was one. Yeah, because he fights with one arm.
But he lost like half of his forearm.
Yeah, he lost half his arm pretty much.
So he lost like half his forearm, more than Anakin or Luke lost off of their arm. No, Anakin lost a bit about.
Because imagine if we have Obi-Wan on Tatooine and, he's just sort of settling into this life of just a guy living alone with the Force, working on becoming the Force. And then you just tag on Mace Windu, like crawling from the wreckage of Coruscant, or not crawling from the wreckage, but maybe he still doesn't have an arm. He just has a cloak over him, and he's in the lower levels of Coruscant, which we've seen in some extended universe stuff. Not nice areas.
Some Clone Wars, I think.
He will not be in great condition, though. That would explain.
But we
why
could
he will
put it 5 years
weight.
later. 5 years later.
Well.
10 years.
Yeah, it would have to be 5 years.
10 years.
Because he fell off. Look where he fell. Look at where he fell from.
What if
he fell from way the hell up top?
What if he fell in a nice
he's
pond?
not walking away.
But yeah, we've seen people walk.
Oh no, huh? We'll say he.
Like Mace, we're gonna be like, but Mace died in episode 3.
I guess not.
This is they could look if I see like the end cliffhanger of an episode and all of a sudden a cloak rolls back and it's Mace Windu's face, my reaction is gonna be like, I'm just gonna be going crazy.
Bro, he got R2 got it right. That would be the expression, because as much as I would like to see it versus actually seeing it, if I actually see it, I'm gonna flip.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just the
You guys will
conflict.
be questioning whether I got robotic vocals or not.
It's the conflict that I would be so excited to see. Like, yeah, just to see conflict between the Jedis. Like, yeah, there's somewhat, they talk about it, but it's, it's very like, they show the dichotomy, like Jedi good, Sith bad. But then to see arguments between them
and that,
yeah,
it's a beautiful thing. That's why we need a Mace Windu book of anyone, because I think Mace on his own, like, I do believe that Mace Windu is the most intricate Jedi we've ever seen, because he does walk this line where he is a Jedi, he aligns with the light side of the Force, he fights for the light side of the Force, but he's not afraid to tap into the dark side. He's not afraid to use the dark side as a tool, and that's a dangerous thing when you're not as disciplined as Mace Windu.
Oh yeah, but see, he views it as a tool.
Yes.
He understands that he basically completely mastered the light side, and he understands that the dark side is just a tool.
Yeah,
it's not something that that.
He's not gonna succumb to the dark side's temptation.
Yeah, it's not something that you should be able to succumb to. He views it as ignorant,
and I think
letting yourself be taken by it.
Yes, I agree, and I think that it'll just be such a wonderful dialogue having two of the, like, because there's only a few actors that made it out of the prequels without being bashed. That is Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan, Ian McDiarmid as Palpatine, and Mace Windu, Samuel L. Jackson. And so I think that the conflict, like you said, G, where it's like just having this dialogue, this climactic dialogue as they're facing off of like Mace Windu telling him, I told you so, essentially. I told you this was a bad idea. I told you that it was not going to play out how you thought,
Yeah.
You should have let me take care of it in the beginning. You should never train the kid.
Yeah.
And he's like, I need to fix your mistakes.
And that dialogue could further, show us how Obi-Wan turned out to be, like it could really affect his mind and his world.
Having to kill Mace Windu?
Yeah.
Obi-Wan having to kill Mace Windu, and not wanting to do it. Just like, and it's just such a tragic story.
Yeah.
Him having to do what he did to Anakin in episode 3. That's his brother, he loves him. And then him having to face Mace Windu, who is just sort of lost to this darkness of hate as Anakin was.
Oh, I can't even fathom that. No, I couldn't. So as you're saying it, I'm trying to come up with a whole different scenario in my head. I'm like, I can't see Obi-Wan and him do that, because they were actually really tight during the Clone Wars.
Yep.
They were actually really tight. Out of everyone in the Jedi Order, Obi-Wan didn't talk to nobody. He didn't spend his time around actually, Obi-Wan talked to a lot of people, but Mace didn't necessarily speak with a lot of people.
I think they had a lot of mutual respect.
Prowess.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, they did, because they fought together a lot as well.
And
when
also,
it came to living, survivability, those two had the highest survivability out of a lot of people.
Damn sure.
Coleman.
Because I remember all the canon Clone Wars series.
Yeah.
Those two were without those two, the Clone Wars would have failed a long time ago.
And I think you and I are in agreement here when we say that Mace Windu was without a doubt the strongest Jedi that we saw on screen. Regardless of how much we saw him, he is. You saw how he handled Palpatine. He handled that guy.
Like a baby.
Yes.
He handled him like a lost pup.
We saw Kit Fisto get... Yeah, he did. With one arm. He's like, come on now.
Oh,
you know what time it is.
Kit Fisto was supposed to be legendary at one of his favorite forms. He was supposed to be so good that,
Fluid.
that he put Grievous to shame.
And
he literally got the floor wiped off. Honestly, I do agree with this one point of view on Kit Fisto on screen compared to the animation version.
It's a different guy.
That was a horrible Kit Fisto.
It was terrible.
That Kit Fisto looked overweight.
He looked like he just ate like a 4-course meal with like some extra dessert on the side, and he was just kind of waking up from his 3 p.m. nap. And yeah, it was really bad. But yeah, so it's an interesting thing to have this like relationship between Obi-Wan and Mace come to this tragedy. And yeah, I think that
it's just, it's like like when you were describing the Revan story, it's, I just feel so much regret, the fact that I haven't been immersed in such a world. Like, there's only so much that I've mainly seen the movies. Those have been my main source of Star Wars.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. And it's like, but then like just seeing the richness that could be, that's
so much history within the world.
Exactly. And it's like, how's Disney just,
they've had it since day one.
Solo. I mean, why?
Yeah, of all the things we can get, Solo.
Like just listening to the fans, you could just easily tell that,
Look at all the novels we have. I mean, you have people like, all the deep cuts that we've gotten back have exclusively been thanks to Dave Filoni.
Oh yeah.
Bringing Thrawn back is all Dave Filoni.
Mm-hmm.
Darth Bane, Filoni.
Yeah.
We have so many great stories that could be told, and the great thing is they have them written for them. You can cut out what you don't like and adapt it. It's there.
Wow. Yeah.
And that's the Old Republic. We'll see.
I wanted to ask you before we went on that tangent, like, what did you want between that, the Sith and the Lord, or the Darth Revan Bane?
As much as I would love to see the formation of Jedi and Sith, Darth Revan, Darth Bane, that's my main squeeze, man. I want to see it so bad. I just want to be able to talk about it with people, because there's so few people who even know what Knights of the Old Republic is. You can be a diehard fan of Star Wars, love it, and you may still not even know what it is. And that makes me sad. And I want people to know it. I want people to love it. Oh, it's all good, pal. We're coming towards the end of the show today. This has been honestly my favorite, maybe second. We had a great episode where we were theorizing episode 9 stuff, but besides that, this I think has been my favorite episode to have done of the Fan Awakens. I want to say thank you for Doug calling in and sticking with us for this whole hour and a half episode we did. It was only supposed to be a few topics. We broke off into tangents. We broke the structure, and we really made some great conversation. So thank you, Doug, for stopping by.
Oh, no problem. I would love being here.
Yep, and I hope that you'll call in again sometime. We're always going to be welcome to have you. G, thank you, of course, being my glorious co-host here. Thank you for my pug for snoring beside us the entire 2 hours. Is there anything else you'd like to? Well, first, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at the Fan Awakens Podcast, at Fanima Movies. You can follow us on Twitter. You can follow us. Go to fanima.com. All our podcasts are always posted there. You got the links for Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, wherever you find your podcasts. We are on it. Just search up Fanima Podcast Network or Fanima Movies. It's going to come up. Doug, any last words you want to say to the good people at home?
No.
I think we
everybody faithful to Star Wars out there. Everyone faithful.
Yes, sir. Stay loving Star Wars.
Keep at it. Stay true. Don't let these public opinions sway you. Exactly. Don't hate. Don't let it make you into a hateful person. Because
we've seen how that goes. We don't need more Anakins out there. Let's just love Star Wars. But with that, G, anything left?
You better play that button.
Which button?
Obi-Wan.
Okay, so thank you guys for stopping by, and
goodbye, old friend. May the Force be with you.
But we're gonna leave on that.